Live streaming is on.
Wow, if only we can have this kind of peace. Can you hear me? Seems peaceful now. Fantastic. Okay. So let's go. Edidong, you wanted to go first? Oh, I don't think Edidong is here.
Okay, Edidong is currently disconnected. Possibly we switch to Barime.
Okay.
Sure. I haven't been writing news for a long time. That's why I was so hoping someone else would go first. I write news in a very amateur way. I follow what the mainstream media outlets and newspapers are saying, and then I'll go on what they're saying. It's interesting to see how different outlets will tell the same story in different ways. I suppose that's something notable to mention. But I'm not well versed in news writing. I think it's very risky. It's not very much it's not a very free space, and so it's not something I involve myself in too much. Reading news anytime, but writing news, I think, a huge responsibility, and I think it's something that is a bigger talent than we make it out to be, because writing objective news stories is hard. So I absolutely take my hat off to a capable and competent news writer. There aren't many, but I think they do exist. But I'm not a good one either. So, but that's my take on news writing.
Okay, if I may.
Yeah, you can go ahead,
jelilat.
Okay, I think we should just basically start with what it basically means news writing, which basically means a type of writing that attempts to answer some questions about a particular event. We have the question of who, what, where, how, and when. So basically, you're writing something about a particular event. All these questions must be answered, and that's just. I don't know, but the audio keeps bouncing back. Is it just me? And it's really disturbing.
We have to divide
audio is bouncing back.
Like feedback.
I can hear you just
I
fine.
feel when someone is speaking, we should all mute our mic to avoid sound interference.
If you have two devices on, it can affect it. Just switch off the other one and use one to connect.
Okay, I think probably some of us are connecting through two devices. I mean, you can switch off one so that to avoid sound interference. Is that okay? See, let's just get connected via one device. So you can go ahead, Jelilat.
That really was my 2 cents. Like I said, guys, I'm no hardcore journalist. I'm a presenter.
Jelilat, you can go ahead with your presentation.
Okay, so I was just basically saying that it's not rocket science. It's a sort of writing that tends to answer some questions about a particular event. And so for a perfect news writing or a news story, you must have some basic questions answered. And this includes the question of who is involved, what happened, where it happened, how it happened, and when it happened. So basically, if you are writing the news, all these questions must be answered, and not necessarily all at the same time, but you have some that must be answered. So basically, that's what news writing means. And I think if we all look at the kind of writing we have these days, on the traditional medium, on social media, on digital media, we all see that it answers all these questions. So basically, that's what I will naturally tell you news writing means. Of course, we can delve into the type of news writing, the inverted pyramid, but then we can also delve into what the features are, I mean, the proximity and other things like that. But basically, to just cut the short and make it brief and as simple as it could, a writing that attempts to answer this question, the basic question of when, who, what, when, and how.
Grateful for that. She has touched on the elements of news writing: who, what, how, and when. Amaka Okoye, can you enlighten us on the challenges of actually ensuring that those elements are complete in a news item? Are there challenges that you encounter when you're trying to answer those questions?
All right, can you hear me?
Did you get the question?
Can you hear me?
Yes,
I got
please.
your question. I'm just checking if you can hear me. So essentially, from my own experience, the biggest challenge in able to determine some of the elements that you have mentioned would be, that which all of us journalists are aware as the biggest trouble, if you like, in present-day journalism, which is the presence of fake news, the fact that we're not able to verify is it's a very huge challenge. So for instance, I give a very typical example. I'm currently in Kebbi, where I'm following up the kidnap of those students and staff from the federal government college in Yauri. Now, having been here for 7 days, actually over a week and actually here, one of the things that I've found ridiculous is when I read other read from other medium and see what they report as the things happening. And I just say to myself, this is the biggest challenge of journalism, the fact that we cannot verify things. So when you talk about the why, I've read people saying all kinds of everything, journalists writing all kinds of everything, partly not because of their fault. For obvious reasons, this is a very dangerous terrain. Not every person will to come here. Not every organization would also want to deploy their personnel to come to this place. However, there is also need to verify. So for instance, if you cannot be in Kebbi, who else can you call who is in Kebbi to authenticate some of the things that you want to write? So for me, the biggest challenge, both to the why and the when and the how, has been that very influx of fake news. The urgency sometimes for people to just post, for people to just write and put it out there. I always question the motive behind why do you want to be the first person to break the news if you do not have all the details. I was reading a very seasoned journalist, Lekon Otufo, today writing, and he says, bring me back the old journalism. That's the old journalism that you're not in a hurry to post for the sake of it, the old journalism that you want to verify before you post, the old journalism that it's not about what others say, but that you are certain and that you have the interest of the people to whom you are accountable for in your mind before you write anything. So if I may answer your question, the biggest threat to being certain that all of these elements you've mentioned are in place is that influx and that unfortunate spread of fake news, which, whether or not we like it, most of us journalists have also been victims. Very big media houses have also been victims. Even if I, again, use the same example of this particular story, there are media houses that unfortunately have reported what I would say is fake news, not because I believe, of course, nobody will go out of their way to want to misinform the public, but because, again, there is that sense of urgency to be the first to break the news, which is not really necessary if you really want to report accurately, which is supposed to be our duty as journalists, whether you're print, whether you're broadcast, whether you're on social media, whether you're on multimedia platform, whichever platform that you are in, it's supposed to be the same ethics, if you like. So I think that's the biggest challenge that I have seen so far, especially being on ground and reporting various issues in Nigeria. at this time.
I must compliment what you just said. You know that, like, I think accuracy is the most important thing. We undervalue accuracy at times. Yeah.
And I think buttressing on what Amaka said, I mean, Amaka said a lot. And I think that also has to do with social media. So social media has its pros and cons when it comes to journalism. But like Amaka said, social media erases the principles of journalism in the sense of accuracy and impartiality. So you have cases where people are trying to push a certain narrative and they're mixing up stuff. I think sometime earlier this year when we had the herdsmen crisis in the southwest, and there was a case where someone took a picture of, there was a time where there was, I think, thunder struck some cows in a particular state, and that person took that picture, and then the caption was, they've killed cows in that particular state in the southwest, which was wrong. So as much as social media is very good and is very helpful, especially with journalism, it also removes the aspect of accuracy and impartiality. Everyone is just trying to push their certain narrative. Everyone, like Amaka said, everyone wants to break the story first. So it's not necessarily about the content, but the fact that, oh, I broke this story, or I was one that put this out first. And we tend to sort of remove the fact that we're misleading people. And that's a huge problem, because if you push a narrative that is false, you start up problems that weren't even there in the first place. So you start a case where you say there's ethnic war or ethnic cleansing in a particular place when there isn't any going on, and then it now happens because you now have people retaliating. So I think social media has done us a lot of good, but then there's also some problems that we need to watch out for in that.
Okay, so from Amaka's answer, we're able to delve into the issue of social media and the menace of fake news. You did mention that people are willing to break the news first, but behind that social media account is a person, most times a journalist, who is actually peddling that news. Would you think that probably it's the training that we have now? Probably the training that we have now for journalists doesn't allow them, investigate these issues, or rather we just blame social media for it all.
I don't know whether that's for me or for
who's to answer.
It's open.
Okay. I would say that.
Go ahead.
I would say that now you have a lot of citizens journalism going on. So sometimes it's not necessarily journalists that work with certain media houses, but it's actually citizens journalists. The person who posted that picture of cows wasn't an actual journalist, it was just a person. So as much as we would say that, yes, we have journalists who make these mistakes sometimes, you also have citizens journalists, you have individuals, and that's what social media does, because now they say everyone is a journalist, and I would agree and I would disagree. Everyone can be a journalist, but not everyone is a journalist, because you talked about training. To an extent, I would say that maybe there's a training for journalists. I really don't know what people are learning now. There's some little change in values. But at the same time, I would also point out that it's not all journalists. It's not all journalists that are doing this. And that's what social media has done. Everyone can pick up their phone and they hear something and they say, this is what I'm hearing. You have cases where people say, oh, I have been informed, or I have credible information that this is what's going to happen. It may not necessarily be a journalist that's saying that. It may not necessarily even be that they have that credible information, but everyone wants to be seen as someone who is telling people what's going on in the country at this time. So I feel like it's not all the time that it's journalists. And I would agree that journalists, we do have our own lapses sometimes. But yeah, I think that's what I have to say on that.
Okay, so if I may quickly just chip in something. So I think the problem will have, there are people behind this keyboard, there are people behind the phones, on the devices. I think one of the challenges we're facing now is the professionals competing with the citizen journalists, because they're already saying it, they're already breaking it, they're already putting it out, and we know how traffic works these days. Everybody's setting up their own social media handles and platforms and what have you. And instead of you to do your due diligence as the professional, as the one in charge of disseminating the right and accurate information, you're actually competing with I don't want to call them the untrained, but the ones that are not professional like you. They do not have the knowledge, the basic knowledge you have. The only knowledge they have is to express views, is to type, and they have data, they have phone, they have internet connectivity, and that's all they need. But you, as a journalist, as a professional, you know how due diligence is important to this profession. I'll give you an example. I think it was 2 or 3 days ago, there was this social media write-up about some pupils in Ogun State being beheaded. I don't know if anyone of us actually saw that. And actually saw this particular one on a colleague's Facebook page. And I had to call him, hey, guy, did you actually verify this before you put it up on your personal wall? And this is to say, and he said, oh, but then this is no news. It's on my personal page. And I said, but you're a journalist. If someone sees this on your page now, then that means it's verified. And in actual fact, the supposed attack was not even a case of Fulani herdsmen or clash with someone. It happened, I think, 2 years ago. A madman entered a primary school in one of these schools in Ogun State and did some havoc there. But then a journalist, a colleague, that I told him I was really, really disappointed, took that up, put it up on his Facebook page. So now, if citizen journalists who are perhaps his friend on his wall actually see this, they pick it up and they start disseminating it, then we see that we are doing ourselves more harm than good. We can't be competing with them. We can't be competing with citizen journalists. It's better safe than sorry. It's better late than wrong. Clicks are important. Yes. Clicks are important, yes, but so is accuracy. And we can't all blame it on social media. No, it's like 50-50. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you so much. From what you just
Angel,
said,
I don't know if I can. Okay.
Yes, please. Okay. Yes, please. Please go ahead.
So I was just going to say, I totally agree with Eddie, and I totally agree with you. However, where I guess we're going to correct the wrong is the way we go about it. So, for instance, even when you talk about clickbait, even when you talk about the urgency to post, there are people who look at you as so for instance, somebody will say, if I see Amaka Okoye post this, then I know that it's true. You know what I mean? And because you hold that office, if you like, you want to be careful not to mislead those who, who trust you, who know that you're a credible source, so to say. So whereas we say, yes, there is the aspect of the citizen journalism, there is also the duty. We have a duty as journalists to say, look, even if everybody is doing the same thing, I'll hold the fire until I am certain. Whether you like it or not, those media houses, there are media houses that, even without mentioning that, when people see stuff from them, the temptation to share it is there. However, they know somewhere in their mind that, look, you can't trust these people. Sometimes you could share something from certain, media houses, and people will say, oh, never take those people serious. Now that's very, very damaging, but it didn't start today. It's because over time, they have unfortunately consistently done that, and people can, associate them with falsehood and false information, which is really, really unfortunate. You know what I mean? So again, we've also seen instances where media houses have posted things, right? And they've had to retract it. Again, I give you an example of when, Kankara happened, the kidnap in Kankara happened. It was the major one, right? Everybody was talking about it. And just while that was happening, there was this false information that went out, 17 people have been released out of those who were kidnapped. I was on ground. I had gone into Kankara twice, and it was a very, very risky terrain. And then, my office was calling me and saying, look, everybody has broken this, 17 persons released. And I said, look, the only reason why I'm here is to be able to give you first-hand information. There was no 17 person. I have gone to the school. I've been speaking to parents. I've been speaking to, those who are waiting for their children and their word to come back. Nobody can verify that the 17 persons are here. It's up until I had to do, more than 2 lives that these other media houses, reputable media houses, had to retract, what they had said. So you don't really want to be in position, be the one that will always put out the false information. I mean, it's worse when you have to retract information. It rubbishes every integrity that you have. So I think that as journalists who represent the media, a medium, represent our own self as individuals, you also have to think of that. Do I want to be that person who is in a hurry to peddle false news? Or do I want to be that person that people would really want to go to and say, no, if it is coming from this person, it is verified? I mean, I cannot tell you the number of updates, live updates that I have had to do here, only to correct misinformation, only to correct, what is not what we had put, several media houses have put out. For instance, the whole thing about, the NUT chairman in Kebbi State saying schools have been shut. It was almost every media, everywhere, So I think we have a bigger role here as journalists. If we want to be trusted, we must earn that trust over time by consistently working as hard as it must be, to consciously put out the right information. Because like Edidong said, we cannot blame it on social media or on citizen journalists. I mean, citizen journalists also, journalism has done a great deal for us, even for the world. Look at the case of George Floyd. If the lady did not make that video, the world wouldn't have known. And by the way, she's now a Pulitzer Award-winning individual. So, I mean, it's got its own side, but we must also be deliberate and intentional in our quest to always give out the right information.
All right, fantastic one there. Talking about putting out the right information, what are the steps? Probably I'll ask jelilat should come up now. What are the steps that you would give to young individuals, upcoming journalists, to verify whatever news it is, that news items that they get? How do they go about verifying this before putting it either on their social media handles or even printing it out?
Okay, thank you. So there's a saying around here in my office that if it is too good to be true, it probably isn't. If it is too good to be true, you're thinking, oh, this thing is too good to be true. Then you have to check again. And that's just the basic line that we use. So let me leave that. Just always remember that if it is too good to be true, it probably isn't true. So which means you have to check and check. And there's, like Amaka said, there's no harm in waiting. There's no harm in you coming second with the right information, with the accurate information. So how do you go about this? We know what our primary sources are. Sometimes your most reliable source can actually, may at some point, may not be reliable, may not even have the right information. How do you do this? we used to say, we try to see if you have reported on 2 major dailies or media organizations, but now it's moved up to 4. Because like Amaka said, we've seen over times that even the most reputable media organizations are falling into this trap of wanting to be the first to do this, to do a particular story. So what you do is make sure you do your own verification. Yes. You have your, okay, for instance, like Amaka said, if you cannot be there in person, to verify that this thing happened, then you know you have some authorities to talk to. Sometimes authorities as they are this source that's they are inevitable. If you have a wrong information from authority, because we call them authority, so which means they have a place, which means whatever comes from them is supposed to be the truth. You have government authority, you have government sources, you have security sources, you have your the third one I'll say is you have media organizations, but we are also saying now that some media organizations are falling into the trap of propagating false news. So which means you still have to double down, you still have to double check. But always make sure that you check your sources. And sources over time, you can have a reliable source, like this person has been very reliable to me for like 2 years or like 3 years, but this person is not dead. Let me start an example. I don't know if anyone of us remembered the late Abdullah Jimobi, rumored dead, not dead, my source didn't say. Yes, we were all here. We were all waiting. We've written our stories, just waiting for confirmation. But then someone, you could say, I trust this person. I trust Amaka with my life. She's telling the truth. She's there. But what if Amaka herself got the wrong information from a source? What if I got the wrong information from my source? What if you got the wrong information from your source as well? So that means you have to, there's no limit to verification. There's no limit to how far you can go. Always have that at the back of your mind. And police source, well, we all know how police information we are able to get this in our country as credible source, but then you cannot do without them.
All right.
You cannot do without them.
You have just hammered on verification, verify your source's source, and verify your source's source, if that is permissible. Okay, Barry, I don't know if you're still here. Barry. Okay, I wanted to ask him a question, but he doesn't seem to be here. Edidong, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Yes, I am. Okay, now let me take this a bit home now. Personally, have you ever fallen into the trap of fake news, or have you, fallen into the trap of misinforming the public, probably because your source said something?
So I would say that I'm grateful that hasn't happened to me. Maybe because of my beat, which is business and market. So I haven't had to deal with any of that. But I've seen that happen, in the place I worked in. And it was, what happened was, if we all remember Okonjo-Iweala's emergence as the DG of the World Trade Organization. So there were times when we saw it being carried by other media houses, which, almost every newsroom has TVs with major media houses, and everyone is watching what they're putting out. And when we saw it carried on some other stations, she has been announced as the DG of the World Trade Organization. And so we took it as well because it seemed like other people were carrying it and we were not carrying it at the time. But it was still someone in the office who tried to reach out to someone in the World Trade Organization to actually confirm what was going on. And then it was actually a mix-up where she had not eventually been she announced as the DG, but then there were just speculations, and it wasn't just media houses that took it as well. It was all over social media. It was trending everywhere that, oh, she's now the DG. So like she said, verify your source's source. And it can be difficult because a lot of times your sources do not want to talk, or the authorities rather do not want to talk. So classic example, something that has to do with CBN or the government, the people who are actually supposed to give this information are withholding it for one reason or the other. And so in trying to make sure that, okay, we get what's really going on, you have to go through back sources or back channels to find out what's really going on. It can be really dicey, I would say. I would just say that I'm also really glad that that hasn't happened to me, and I hope it doesn't happen.
Well, congratulations that it hasn't happened to you. It has happened to me. And I remember back then I was running a show. I'd actually seen the news flying around on social media announcing the death of a popular gospel musician, Don Moine, some years back. I ignored it, but then the general manager of the station I was in, just burst into the studio and was like, Angel, you have to break this news now. Ma, it has not been verified. She said, no. Her source said it's been confirmed. And so live on the Afefe, I was like, okay, breaking news. And then I broke the wrong news. I felt, I can't even describe it. It was one of the worst days for me. Because a few minutes later, I started getting calls like, Angel, what happened? Did you verify? And of course, nobody heard the GM's voice. They heard my voice. I was the authority they were listening to. And so even when I went to speak with the GM, all she should just, wave aside, like, it happens. But I had to really come back, correct that news, try to refute it. I really hope it doesn't happen to you. It's not a good thing. Really not a nice thing. Okay, moving away from that, let's talk about the role of NBC in all this. Sometimes you feel like these people, they are actually giving us a run for our money. What do you think their role should be in combating fake news? It's actually open. It's open. So who's going first? Jelilat, do you want to go first?
Okay, that's fine. Well, for me, NBC, at the risk of sounding like a broken record, NBC in the past hasn't even been living up to their to what is expected of them. I can categorically say that they've usually been seen as government tools rather than being what you are expected to do. However, it naturally, as a regulatory body, you have some specific roles to play, and with the incursion of social media into their roles now, I think I don't know how they're going to go about it, because it's a wide spectrum. The platform is so wide that you have to start clamping down on not just the traditional medium, the professional journalists, but also on citizen journalism. However, I think collaborating with social media platforms is one way to go about this. For instance, on Facebook, if a media organization put up a fake news, there's this algorithm of Facebook that fact check and put you on downgrade. It's there. They downgrade you for like 1/3. If your reach in if your normal reach is 2 million average on a day or per week, they downgrade it to like say 200,000. And for such media organization, that's a huge blow. And by so doing, you would not even want to have such on your hand. Imagine you've been downgraded from 2 million reach to 200,000 reach. And that's one way to go about it. I would say collaborating with these social media platforms too, because it's very, very important. I reckon Facebook didn't just have this program in place. It's called fact checker or something. I can't remember the specific name for it, but I've experienced it with different social media platforms, especially Facebook. They flag you, no matter how big you think you are. It happened. I've seen an example made out of BBC. I've seen an example made out of CNN. And particularly it's not even about you saying it's not even about you propagating fake news. If there's some sort of misleading information, it might just be one line, then they flag you and you lose all your credibility. It's like you're starting from the scratch. And I'm very sure that no media organization or no social media organization would want to be downgraded. It's a huge loss. I'm sure some of us who do social media will know how huge it is to lose a reach from 2 million, say 2 million to 200,000. It's like they send you back to the scratch. You have to start crawling out. And that's one way I think NBC can do that. It cut across board. What do you call it now? Instagram, Twitter. Well, we can't speak of Twitter. It's Instagram and every other social media platforms that we have collaborating with the right authority to stem the menace of fake news from the roots, not just cutting the people off, not just telling them to pay money, not just saying we are going to put you down. If you put a citizen journalist down, that person will come up with something else, and that's it. Collaboration.
Thank you so much, jelilat. You've talked about collaboration. Right after now, Karen Onwandera, you would also be joining us. You are supposed to be on the second panel. Apologies. You'll be joining us. But then I wanted to say this. We're talking about NBC curbing fake news. What about news that you know to be true, but they don't want you to put it out? How do we deal with that? I have practical examples. That was during an election. The representative of a party came to the studio, and I was asking him some questions concerning the primary elections and all. And because we were there, everything he was saying, we knew for sure that was not the truth. But I wouldn't want to argue with it. As much as you keep bringing it up, he keeps giving you fake figures and fake information. And then right after the interview, while we're walking out, it was just like, my sister, you should understand these things now. Of course, there was no primary election, but we cannot get to see that. So how should journalists deal with this? You know the truth, but it's as if you can't get it out.
I think it's dicey because, like she had mentioned earlier, the NBC is almost like a tool for the government, especially here in Nigeria. And so it now gets more difficult where you have the truth to say, but you can't exactly put it out there because, I mean, we don't even have to think too far back. Look at NSAS and what happened to that. And, you had Arise, I think AIT channels being fined for reporting, covering what happened then. So it's it's a bit difficult, and I'm hoping that maybe someone else have something, a tangible response to that, because sometimes you think about it, in some sort of way, the media in Nigeria is being gagged. If we want to tell the truth to ourselves, because a lot of times, the truth, you don't have to start thinking of how to say this truth so that your station doesn't have to pay a huge fine, which is very, very dangerous, because if you cannot tell the truth, then what's the point of everything? So I really don't know how or what we would say about that, because on the one hand, you have a lot of media houses fighting with, okay, this is the truth, but you can't say the truth, because then you're going to face huge fines or you risk your license being withdrawn. So I really do not know how that's going to happen. I don't know if Amaka has any solution to that. But it's a bit dicey. I think that's what I'm going to say, because you can't. Nigeria is. Unfortunately, we're in a society where it's not so easy to just stand up and fight against the government.
Okay.
Not as easy.
Thank you so much. Karen, Karen, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Hello, Karen. You've been part of the conversation, and so now I'm going to bring you up. You are a writer, you're an anchor, and a multimedia journalist. And so Edidong did talk about, the media being gagged. What's your take on this?
I think when you look at some of the ways in which the media has been operating, especially in today's society, it's very hard for a lot of media houses to remain independent. And I say that because as much as a company or a media house may say that they are independent, they have the ability to stay away from censorship and publishing certain stories, we're still seeing that they do rely on funding. The model of media has always been based on advertising, especially once we're going onto a digital platform where people can access news freely. A lot of media houses rely on advertising models to be able to make money. And as a result, the companies that advertise for them do ultimately have a say in terms of the kind of stories that do get published and the ones that don't. And, we are stuck in this loophole where media in some way or to some extent isn't entirely free.
So to some extent, that means that we are not actually able to put out the truth out there.
I would say the truth, but it's always skewed towards a specific angle. So if there's a story that's being covered, for example, around, when you look at the Me Too movement and trying to unpack a kind of story like that, it would be in service of who is the person at fault and who's the victim. And as human beings, although we might be journalists, but we'll have our own biases around certain stories. I, for one, know that I would be for someone that has been a victim to gender-based violence, for example. And as a result, the way I would report or write on that story would be specific towards a certain angle. So pushing a certain agenda. Sorry, Angel, I think you're on mute. I can't hear what you're saying.
Oh, sorry about that. I thought it was on. Okay, you talked about, you probably would want to write from a prejudice angle. Doesn't that contradict the ethics of the profession? I believe we have ethics, do we?
Absolutely. What I've noticed, particularly in the field of journalism, studying from it, we've been taught journalists must be objective, which is absolutely true. Objectivity allows for truth to be transparent and to have both sides of the story. But in all honesty, people naturally are never objective. We always have certain feelings towards a certain particular story or certain angle. And that then leads to those biases. And this is something that's also being considered in the field of journalism, that should we then, if I'm a person or a journalist that's writing a story around gender-based violence and I am for the victim, I need to be transparent to my audience, to my readers, to say, this is the point of view that I'm coming from. And there is a need for advocacy journalism as such, because that's what changes legislation. That's what investigative journalism is. If you're an investigative journalist, you can't say that you're going to be on the side of those that are being corrupt. If you're investigating them, you're obviously on the side of those that have been victims to that corruption. But it's about how do you be transparent about that to your audience?
Is Amaka with us?
Yeah.
Hello, Amaka.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, so Karen just said, I'm quoting her now, that people are never objective. You're in Kebbi right now, you're following a story. Are you sure that you're going to report that story objectively, following Karen's thoughts?
I mean, I suppose I hear Karen and I understand what she's saying. And you know, the way we say that virtue lies in the middle. And even in the practice of journalism, even when we talk about freedom of speech, for instance, I would say there is no absolute freedom. And when you talk of objectivity as well, you can never achieve 100% objectivity. And I can explain what I mean. If, for instance, I am in Kebbi and 10 people were brutally murdered, their heads chopped off, you know, I'm going to report that they were murdered, but I'm not going to tell you that, oh, their heads were chopped off and, you know, I'm not going to show you all of those visuals. That did not mean that I've not told the truth. I have told the truth, the fact that 10 people were murdered, but I did not give you these other graphic details. And why I did that is, I remember Edidong talking about when you report, the manner in which you report would most probably, because of what you've reported, cause another havoc in terms of reprisal, right? So you as a journalist would always have in your mind that I am accountable to the people and I am here to tell the truth, right? However, in telling the truth, I am not here to cause more damage, you know, than the one already done. And so when we say that, you know, truth, the virtue is in the middle, it means that, yes, I'm going to tell you that 10 people have been murdered, but am I going to tell you the details of how it happened? If it's not going to be for the common good, I would not, you know, report that. And I think that's what I hear, you know, Karen saying. The fact that, yes, you do know the truth. Yes, you express the truth. But yes, there are certain information that you withhold, not because you're lying, not because, of course, you don't want to well inform the people, but because you know that this extra detail may not necessarily be useful. Is it going to add to the common good of the people? If the answer is no, then why do I need to say it? Indeed, I have seen it. It's firsthand. Indeed, I know that it happened. Indeed, I may just be discussing with another person in order to take it off my chest that, look, I've seen the most gruesome thing here today. But I'm not going to come on air and say, you know, this is the extent to which this happened. Because again, we are human beings. Again, we have flesh and blood. Again, we process things. And our processing of thoughts also amounts to the translation in terms of our action. And so because you represent the common good, the good of the people, you also want to be careful. So yes, you cannot, I'm sorry, but you cannot achieve 100% objectivity in terms of giving it all as the way you saw it. No, you want to be also careful to protect the other, you know, for the sake of the higher good, if I put it that way.
Thank you so much for clarifying, Amaka. I guess our time is really fast spent. I've enjoyed all the sessions, practical examples, practical scenarios. But I'm informed now that we have joining us the keynote speaker, one of our keynote speakers, the Senior Special Assistant in New Media Relations to Niger State Governor, and who is also currently Special Assistant to the Governor of Niger State on new media. Are you with us, Mr. Usman Shiroma? Hello. Mr. Sam Unwoko, are you also with us? I don't think either of them. I got a notification just now that they were with us, but then I think they're disconnected at the moment. Okay, when they do come up again, I believe we shall be having them. Okay, it's time to take some questions. I believe the audience have some questions. Our coordinator, can you hear me? If you are, hello. Okay, I think the coordinator, speakers, everyone has done AWOL, and so we'll just have to continue. Yes, we're talking about news writing in the digital age. We've talked about what news writing is, the elements that make up news writing, the challenges, which Amaka said, basically fake news, not being able to verify, and jelilat also told us on how to go about verifying this news. Check your source and check your source all over again. You know, I really didn't want to. Okay, but let's bring it up. Social media. Until some time back, Twitter used to be part of social media in Nigeria. But now, due to what happened, it's been banned. How has that ban affected the production of news in Nigeria? Edidong, would you want to answer that first?
Okay, so I would say that the ban hasn't exactly affected the production of news. The production aspect, it hasn't affected anything. However, I think that media houses have lost a certain audience to that ban, because now your production is, I mean, despite what goes on social media, your production is still your production. You know, it's just that you've lost one of those medium where you could, you know, reach more people, unlike where you would produce, you have the news, or there's a story, or there's an interview, and you cut it short to maybe 1-2 minutes, and then you put it on Twitter. You can't exactly do that now. And the problem now is, because of the internet, you have a lot of people spending more time with their phones or their laptops. So you don't have as much people watching television anymore. You don't have as much people reading newspapers anymore. So it's easier to reach people through social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Now, the ban on social media or Twitter has cut that short. So there's a large chunk of people that you don't exactly reach out to anymore. I think that's mostly the impact it has on media, not exactly the news production, but then reaching certain people. So it's cut short the audience of people you can reach out to.
Can you?
I think you're muted, Angel.
Angel, we can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now? Okay, thank you. But jelilat, I was just thinking, having the ban on Twitter in Nigeria, and the fact that we still have citizens actually using that same app, isn't it going to be a means to further fuel fake news? Because now the broadcasters who are supposed to probably put the right things out there are no longer allowed to really use that platform. So everybody, has a field day, and probably Twitter can just be a free for all thing. What's your thought?
Well, I think that's a no-brainer. First of all, when Twitter was when it was still very active, you could see something on Twitter and you're like, oh, let me quickly verify on other media organization platforms, and you have a Twitter moment. I think your mic is still on. I can hear myself. Okay, so yes, that's, you can't help that. So there are some people that really do not rely on the media organization. They rely on what they see on Twitter, and we know how Twitter trends work. And I think it does affect digital news production, if I may put it that way, because we are for digital news production, you rely on SEO, and Google SEO kind of gets their algorithm from cumulatively from social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or what is trending, on what people are talking about on social, on browser, and all of that. And so for the digital media platform, it does have its impacts, because you say, for instance, you have a particular news breaking out now, you go to Twitter, you see that it's trending, then you decide, do I really want to pursue this story on a digital platform? Because this is what people are talking about. This is what is trending at the moment. This is what the youth want to see. This is the conversation they are having. So it does have its impact, and it's I think for those of us in the digital medium, the social media and the digital platforms, we feel that impact. Really, we feel that impact, because it's you can hardly see what people are talking about now. You can hardly get to know what the trend is, because you can't even log in, and you are at the risk of either getting suspended or that. You can't even bring in, you can't embed what people are talking about into your stories. You can't use anything on that platform. We would naturally serve as your conversation in your story. You can't use it. You are limited to Facebook. You're limited to Instagram. And we know how slow information gets out on these two platforms, unlike Twitter. And you have series of journalists now. They just post something from Facebook and tweet it on Twitter. So it does have its impact. And yes, fake news has the potential to burst more now that we do not have enough of our media organizations tweeting the right information using their handle.
All right, thank you so much. At this point, I would appreciate if other persons can kindly introduce themselves so that I can know those that we have on the platform and engage them adequately. Okay, because I've been speaking with jelilat, I've been speaking with Edidong, Amaka, Karen. Okay, Barry was there before, but he left. So if you can hear me, kindly introduce yourself and let's engage. Thou shalt not be shy. Just for a minute or so, introduce yourself. If you can hear me, you're part of this conversation, and we have not been engaging. Anyone?
Hello. Can anybody hear?
Okay, I'm picking the voice. Hello.
Okay, all right.
Okay, all right.
And I'm a columnist. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't get that. Network was scrambled.
Okay, I said I am Babatunde Adeleke. I hope you can hear me this time. Yes, and I'm a columnist with the Nigerian Tribune. And it's so nice to be here.
Hello.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so let's engage. We'll be
Oh, now I can't hear you. I think you're on mute. I think.
How about now?
Okay, I can hear you now.
Oh, thank you. So let's engage. You're a columnist, and I remember during that my dad's time. Coincidentally, today makes it exactly 23 years that he passed on. He was managing editor with Daily Times of then until his death. So I understand what he does behind the table. It was quite traditional back then. So, what's the difference then and now? Traditional media and the digital media. What is there really a difference?
Yes, there's been a difference. Because of social media, the way it has opened up. 2-3 decades ago, Nigeria was all about Nigeria, not even the rest of Africa, not even the rest of the world. But with social media and with the influx of the internet as we have it today, it's you really can't say you are all by yourself. You have to think of other people. You have to think of other audiences. You have to think of people beyond the shores of where you are publishing, and that's a whole lot of difference. So that's one particular difference, that whether it's the traditional media or the digital media as we have it today, that's one thing we must all take note of. It's the fact that times are changing and we must change with it. So I think that's one big, very big difference.
Okay, so you did talk about it has a far reach, unlike traditional media. But I know that, newspapers used to be our go-to source. It was the source. If once it's on newspaper, it's authoritative. Is it still in place? Is that still the status quo that once it's on the dailies, it has to be accurate?
Yes, it is still like that. And that is newspapers presently do not, the mantra is not to be the first to break it. It is usually to be the one to say the truth. And so, unlike blogs or digital media as you have it, the fact that one very particular advantage about digital media is that you can say something right now, and then in the next 2 hours you can issue a rebuttal, and then you can apologize and say, oh, you didn't mean to say that. With newspapers, the process is usually long, and so uh, newspaper journalists try to avoid errors as much as possible. And so, more often than not, it leads to taking time out to properly understand the story, to properly understand the nuances and where the narrative is coming from. And more often than not, that leads to stating facts the way they are, unlike digital media where everybody rushes out to be the first to break it. So even today, the narrative still holds true that if it's in the dailies, then it is more often than not the truth. Oh, I think you're on mute again.
I don't know.
Oh, I don't think you've unmuted yourself. I can't hear you. Nobody.
It just keeps the mic has a mind of its own today. It just keeps going off and on at its own will. Oh, okay. So I was saying that I hope digital media practitioners will actually agree with you on that one. Thank you, Babatunde Adeleke. Okay, let me take Karen up and our contribution from other participants too. Karen, are you with us?
Hello, yes, I am.
Okay, so tell us what do you think is the appropriate training that a journalist should go through?
The appropriate training that should go through. So I think, already we have our platforms where we have journalism students that go through tertiary education. I think beyond just, learning the skills of journalism, but I think we also need to look at how can we link the education system to the skill sets that are needed in the journalism industry. Because with technology, a lot of things are changing very, very fast. The digital platform doesn't just mean that you need to look at journalism as, oh, I'm just going to be a newspaper journalist or I'm going to be a video journalist, but you must be able to have all these skill sets entwined in one. So being able to, number one, work with photographs, being able to write content, being able to also portray yourself on digital platforms. There's a huge difference in the type of content that you see in newspapers and the type of content that you'll see on digital platforms. And that has to do with the multimedia-ness of it and the fact that you are now engaging with your audience. So it's not just about, let's just push content out because it has to be there, but we have to listen to what our audiences want at the end of the day. A journalist's role in society is to inform, to educate, and also to be watchdogs of what's happening in government, in political parties, in the corporate space. And we have to have this, open communication with our audience and not just feed them information, but hear what they say in terms of the content they'd like to see, the content that, we can package it in a way that it is easily digestible. Because once you're online, you're not just competing with the people in your country, you're competing with everyone else in the whole wide world.
Oh my. Okay, thank you, Karen. I think the mic has come back on. Jelilat, Edidong, Amaka, would you like to add to that? What Karen talked about skill set. What are the appropriate trainings or skill set required of a journalist?
I think Karen has said a lot. But to add to it, it would be good if some journalists are also impressionable. So you're put yourself in the people's shoes in a way. Let's not be that, oh, we're just here to say what it is that's going on and we're inhuman in some sort of way. I think making people be relatable. So I think it's also better when you tell stories in ways that people can relate to it. You tell stories and people see what's happening. One thing I love about Amaka is when she's on the field for all these things, you can tell that with the way she looks, the way she's telling the stories, it's almost like you can feel what the people there are feeling. She's telling the stories of the parents and you can almost feel how they feel, and I think that's also very important for journalists. You're not a machine, you're not just coming out here to just read from a prompter and just say this is what it is, so I think that's also very important for journalists, of course, with the necessary skill sets, excellent written and verbal communication and the likes. Okay, so I think for every story, it's very important to keep at the back of our mind audience. They are at the heart of everything that we do. And for us at the BBC, it's one of our core values, and I think it's one value that every journalist should actually uphold, because it is so easy to get lost in the surgeon to get accolades, to have views, and all of that. When you remember the people for whom you're doing this, then you owe them that the duty
of care. Like Edidong said about Amaka now, putting yourself in the shoes of your audience. And audience in this context does not mean those people you are targeting. It also means your contributors. It also means those people you're bringing in. It also means people you're talking to. If you know that this that you're doing will affect your audience, you affect the contributors, the people involved, why do it in the first instance? Your story has to be relatable. You have to remember that your audience comes first. If it's going to bring them more harm than good, then you have to have a rethink. And that goes to say that if that story is actually great for you, you know that you're going to get small clicks, you're going to get small views, you're going to get so much. It's going to give you a huge and mad engagement. But of what benefit will this be for your audience? You have to think about that. There's something we do in ads, in marketing, social media ads, advertising, is why do you want to push a story that you know is harmful and you want to spend money on it just so that it reaches thousands and millions of people? But because you know that it has some sort of emotive element that will drag people in, but at the long run, the effect it will have on them is huge and it's negative. So for us and for me personally, I always think about the audience, the contributors, what harm will this do to them? And I'll give you an example. I can't remember the year specifically, but I think it was around 2018 or 2017, where there was this clash between the Hausas and the Yorubas in Ife, that's Osun State, southwest Nigeria. And myself and few other colleagues, say like two other colleagues, were the first people on ground. We were in that time for something else. We weren't hoping to have a clash on our hands. We were not even in the time to cover, to do something professional with it just for some things. And then we had of this clash and we had to head there. What we saw when we got there, we could not bring ourselves to narrate it. Of course, we reported the news. We did our due diligence, but telling our audience that there were bodies massacred, they were giving them details of how this could affect them, the gory pictures, and actually having this on a YouTube will give you mad views, because whether you like it or not, there are people who actually live for this kind of story, but the numbers are not as huge as the impact. I mean, it's not as good as the impact is to have on people. So I don't know, but I always have on the value of thinking about your audience, thinking about how whatever you're doing will affect them. Don't be selfish. Basically, think about them. Make sure they are at the act of every news story you're doing. Yeah.
I wanted to hand over to the convener now, but there's this aspect of that I think we should talk about it before we just round up. There's this aspect of brown envelope journalism. Yes, have you heard about it? Does it exist? And what are its effects?
It does exist. Sadly, it does exist. And let me give you. I will not mention the name of the organization that actually encourages it, and it is a bad practice. We all know. However, if you look at the the kind of lives that an average Nigerian journalist lives. This is not justifying the old practice, but sometimes you ask yourself, if a media organization could say, you have my icon, you have my identity, and I'm not paying you, so my icon, my identity is enough for you. What are they telling you? They're telling you that you could go anywhere, you could cover any event, and you're allowed to take money. And that is what it simply means. And I can tell you categorically that that does exist. We have such a media organization. You look at remuneration and you ask yourself, how much is an average journalist earning? If you're not an international journalist, if you're not like on the scale of the 1, 2, 3, the rated media organization in Nigeria, you know what the conditions are or is for the journalists, and you want to, no matter how you want to like castigate or say, oh, this is bad, you sometimes in your head you're thinking, but how much are they earning? But that's on the sideline. Personally, I've had series of experiences because I've had my own share working with Nigerian media organization, and I've had my own share working with international media organization, and you know how this thing works. Integrity is a huge thing that everybody holds there. I mean, should hold there. But putting integrity side by side, surviving for most journalists in Nigeria it's a sad event as we have it. However,
Oh, the screen is frozen, so I don't know if anyone can hear me now.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. She just talked about the reality of the brown envelope journalism actually existing. Hello?
Hello?
Okay. She just talked about it existing. Now, what are its effects on the type of news that will present to the public?
So I think what that now does, I would also agree that it exists, but I would also like to say that it's also prevalent even in the top 3 media organizations in every country. It's not just for the media organizations who are still trying to get on their feet. But what effect does that have on the kind of news that's being put out? So you have a case where you have a journalist who has gone to cover an event or has gone to report a particular situation, and then the person has gotten some money. What that does is it buys that person's, the person's, how do I put it now? It buys sentiment for whoever it is that's paying. So I go to report something. There's a what example do we give now? Okay, so I'm in Kankara now for something that has happened, and then the governor has called me aside to give me a huge sum of money. Of course, my story is going to be tilted to the side of the government. So I'm not exactly going to, explain, or whoever it is that is there is not exactly going to, tell the story as it is. The person is going to be biased to who gave who the money. or it could go across the different lines, not just for government, even for companies. So a company is doing something, they call you to come and pay them. Deep down that there's still some fault in what that company is doing, probably to their workers or to their customers, but because you've been giving money, you tend to tilt towards the side of the company. So what this brown envelope situation does is it takes away the objectivity, and it introduces bias in journalism. So that way you're not reporting objectively anymore, and you're reporting in favor of whoever it is that gave you the money.
All right, thank you, Edidong. Babatunde, Adeleke, are you here?
Yes, I'm with you, and I have
Okay,
to
so
agree.
let me put you on the spotlight now. How far have you ever benefited from brown envelope journalism?
Have I ever?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think in one case I went for an interview with like a senior colleague of mine, and afterwards, it was these things happen so casually that you wouldn't even know, like, that this person is trying to in proper parlance is trying to perpetrate a crime, because you just I just reported an event and I was supposed to write what I saw or to report whatever I deemed fit, and then in a bid to um, switch the reportage, you extend the favor. And in this case, it was turned down, of course, and the the man went on to issue threats. And I was like, it's not that deep. I mean, you offered money in exchange for a favor, and the person you are offering it to said no, and then you went ahead to issue threats. It was really funny, but the other person was much more experienced, and it was just like, play it cool, like, don't take it too far, don't take it too personal, and that was just that. And for me, I felt like there were so many other people that have been exposed to this.
So I'll pause by to last.
And I must feel for them, how demeaning, and like she said earlier, you also have to look at the issue of remuneration. How much are these media organizations paying? One of the issues that strengthens brown envelope journalism is low remuneration of journalists. If people are not being paid enough to do what they do or what they love to do, it's only a matter of time and the application of the right amount of pressure before they take grant. Because some of those envelopes can be really tempting, especially when the remunerations are not good enough. And that is just a student of. So that's it.
Can anybody hear me, please?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes, we can
Hello?
hear you. We can hear you.
Yes, we can hear
Can
you.
you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, it's so faint. It's so faint. I can barely hear anybody.
Because we can hear you clearly.
Oh,
Can you hear us now?
okay. I think it's raining here. I don't know if it's that's what is affecting my connection. But at this point, I want to appreciate everyone who's been a part of this discussion. I want to appreciate Edidong, Inwang. I want to appreciate jelilat, Opeyemi, Olawale, Amaka, Okoye, Karen Wandera, and Barimea, he joined us previously, and Babatunde Adeleke. Thank you so much for being a part of this. We have learned immensely, and the questions would be coming up. But at this point, I want to hand over to the convener to take over, because I think I have spent far more than we're supposed to, and that was to cover up the network issues that we experienced when we started. So if you can hear me, because I don't think I can hear myself, but if you can hear me, can you please come up? And also, I did call for the Senior Special Assistant in New Media Relation to the Niger State Governor. Initially, I saw him trying to connect, but I don't think he's here now. And Mr. Sam as well, they were supposed to give us their keynote address, and we're supposed to take that now and round up. So I'll be handing over now. African TV.
Well, I think the convener is not around now, but I will take it up from there.
I can't even hear myself.
Can you hear me now? According to the program outline, the next line of action is a commercial break. So I will do that, and we'll come back and take it up from there.
Shopping was going to grocery stores and waiting in long lines to get grocery products. But change is the only constant thing people believe in. People now feel uncomfortable and time-consuming going to crowded markets. This has become the new normal as it saves a lot of time. At Vendobuy, we are an e-commerce marketplace where we offer a secure escrow system for the safety of both buyers and sellers. Start non-stop online shopping with efficient home delivery, new collections, and trustworthy products. Contrary to popular belief, everyone can now own a store, which is trading of all kinds of legal products on Vendobuy. Our e-commerce platform will open 24 hours, 7 days a week via online stores, coupled with an efficient delivery service. Our payment is highly secure and will be integrated with an cash payment gateway system that accepts cryptocurrency alongside other payment methods. Protect yourself from counterfeit products by using Vendobuy platforms to buy and sell both new and used products. Welcome to Vendobuy, market in your pocket.
Hi, Angel, can you please take it from there? All right, I think she's not here. I will continue.
Okay. Sorry. Are we having any issues?
All right. I'm trying to be here. Hello. Hello.
Hi.
Okay.
We can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay. Network isn't being friendly with me right now. Babatunde Adeleke, are you with us? Because I can't see.
Yes, I am.
I can't see anybody right now. Okay,
Yes,
so
okay.
all right. Our time is fast spent. We appreciate the time that everyone has taken out to be here. Especially Amaka, she did tell me that she was her shift was starting at 2, and she actually made it, and she stayed with us for quite a while. I appreciate everyone. We do not take this for granted. Special appreciation to the team lead, like he likes to describe himself, not the founder of MasterClass Initiative. Thank you for the opportunity, and as well as Africania TV. Thank you so much for collaborating and for making sure that young persons across the world are enlightened on different aspects of life. Babatunde Adeleke, I'll be handing over to you for last words, because we do not have the SSA here right now. I saw the chart on Instagram, and it seems he's finding it difficult connecting with us. So that might be in subsequent editions. Or what do you think? Babatunde Adeleke, are you here? Okay, I think network. Hello? I think you're trying to.
I think his mic is muted. Can you please unmute your mic?
My mic is not muted, though.
Not yourself. You're fine to Babatunde here. So I'm asking him to unmute his mic.
Okay, all right.
Okay, since it's not here, I believe we should proceed to the next line of action.
Hello, sorry, I couldn't hear anybody all along.
Yeah, Mr. Atunde, can you please say some few words? I think your audio now is on. Probably just continue the presentation.
Okay, yeah, my audio is on, but was a question asked? I seem to miss that.
Oh, she's currently off. So I think she's just trying to seek your consent as regards the last comment by the speaker, by the the last panelist that spoke. So she's just trying to say you should give your consent on that. The response from the last panelist. Were you able to get the last response from the
No,
panelist?
I missed that as well. I think the network was really messy, and it's only just shaping up pretty well now. I think we should just proceed. Yeah, so I think we should just proceed.
All right, now let's move to the next agenda in the program, please. All right, I think we should come to the end of the program now, since majority of us are not here. They have end the program soon. Let me play the video first.
The MasterClass Initiative is an African educational organization founded by Babatunde Adekombi, a media communicator, that kickstarted in April 2020 with the aim of creating virtual opportunities for learning on practical subjects, connecting university students, young entrepreneurs, and mid-entry level job seekers to businesses, academics, and organizational leaders for personal and communal development. The MasterClass Initiative started as a WhatsApp forum in which resourceful persons come in to educate learners on practical subjects that focus on career and job development, business strategy and branding, legal and ethics, science and technology. From its inception, the level of engagement and participation have grown periodically and rapidly. The need for virtual learning came into better fine-tuning the concept and engaging more resourceful persons internationally. The MasterClass is now recorded on Zoom, streamed live on Facebook, with an average attendance of 100 participants cutting across university students, young entrepreneurs, and job seekers. As of today, the MasterClass Initiative has equally been able to give privilege to some of the participants to serve as MasterClass moderators, giving them an opportunity to build their presentation and communication skills, to interact closely and extensively with the invited speakers. The MasterClass Initiative has been able to partner with some organizations, both locally and internationally, like Africunia TV Channel, Legal Media and Insights, MVIT India, and the Mints Connect Consultancy. These partners have been able to contribute technically to the goal of the initiative, making it more visible to more people. The MasterClass Initiative is solely and keenly interested in the depopulation of unemployment by ensuring participants get opportunities in the aspects of the job from the facilitator. In the coming year, the MasterClass Initiative equally plans to set up an extensive entrepreneurial hub for growth and development of entrepreneurs, a virtual book club to generate more sales for authors, and also to give them the opportunity to share practicalities of their work, and set up a MasterClass Academy for college students to enhance their classroom learning by making partnerships available to make use of the available technical tools.
Hello?
Okay, thank you so much, Africuna. Thank you. At this point, we want to appreciate everyone that has contributed enormously to the discussion today. Thank you for your time. On behalf of everybody at the MasterClass Initiative, I appreciate you all for your time, particularly the Africunia team. Africunia TV channel, thank you for your support. Likewise, our keynote speaker today, unfortunately, we couldn't have him. Our panelists, thank you so much. Starting from Edidong, thank you for your time, for your contribution, very insightful, and I'm very sure the conversation is not stopping at this on this platform. We are going to be sharing extensively all what all you have said on our social media platforms for people to learn more. We appreciate you also, Karen. Thank you for your time. You've enlightened us extensively on the role of as regards line with news writing. Also, we have Adeleke Babatunde. Thank you for your time as well, for sharing extensively on the aspect of, the print media. Knowing fully well you work as a columnist at the Tribune newspaper. Thank you for your time as well. We equally have Jelilat. Jelilat have left. Thank you for your time as well. The presentation was apt. Also, we have Amaka. Thank you also for your time. Uh, Thank you for sharing your thoughts. The contribution was very insightful as well. So, at this point, we would like to bring to a close today's roundtable discussion masterclass. Uh, Honestly, you all have shared various, giving different angle to today's discussion, and we are very optimistic. By the time we start relaying, the conversation to the public, people will be able to learn, comment, and also use them appropriately to better fine-tune uh, the media aspects, particularly in the area of news writing, application of technology and social media. So, so that's all I have to say at this point. Once again, we appreciate you all for your time, and we wish you all the very best. Since we have Edidong, we would like you all to share your final thoughts. If anybody has anything else to say before we wrap up the whole session. Edidong, do you have anything to say? Karen, do you have anything to say?
Yes, thank you very much for having me on this platform. And I hope that as journalists, as media practitioners, that we go forward with a positive outlook, because we are storytellers, but also we influence policy and we have the ability to shape and change the world altogether. So I still believe journalism is quite important and we should strive to always do it the best way that we can.
Amazing. That's great. Thank you. So, Babatunde, do you have anything to say?
Yes, and I must appreciate everybody who has been on the masterclass initiative today, and we must commend the beautiful thoughts that has been shared all evening long. And there's just one more word to say, that it can only get better from here. As we have more discussions, as we learn from each other, we can only get better. So yeah, thank you for the time.
Well, thank you very much for that beautiful comment from Mr. Babatunde Adeleke. At this point, we would like to wrap up the session with a closing ceremonial video from Africuna team. Thank you once again. We wish you all the very best.
Boy, they call me Dempsey Flow. Every left's got different devil. I gotta go up cause so damn love you. I don't build my foundation with my books, so my dreams can collapse overnight. My mind and my soul, in my hustle. Steady chasing big level. For Agbala, Father, Itakacha. Yeah, from coast to coast, up someone's pray for me. Oh yeah, Morocco, but you for me. Pray for me. Badura for me as I stand on my feet. What you mean? Mama, be pray for me. Badura for me as I define what to eat. Could you me, mama, baby? The deeper the dream, the further it looks for. I sing all the praises to Jah. One of these days, man, I'll be a superstar. That I know regular talk. In the rain, in the sun, I come for it anyway. You know we ain't got no option. We got to make it anyway. You felt one more minute. That's why I be matching the gen too. I got to stay in defense. From friend in my friend to friend. But on your barra best. All my riches no be by best. Joy within are the best. Live with happiness to the end. From coast to coast, I hope someone pray for me. Pray for me. Oh, I do that for me. Oh, I do that for me. Oh, I do that for me. The deeper the dream, the further it looks for. I sing all the praises to Jah. One of these days, man, I'll be a superstar. Is that done?
What to tell you? What it all good. Oh, it all good. Wale is